science. It's not something to toy with. It's not something to say, I choose not to believe equals MC squared. You don't have that option.
Let us demand that educators around America teach evolution not as fact, but as theory.
An increasing number of parents showing skepticism about vaccinations.
Voters have approved a ban on GMOs.
Call climate change unproven science.
Always question the scientists and their foundations.
At the moment, modern physics is not making a lot of sense.
Is the sun actually, do you believe, combusting in on itself?
It's not burning anything. There's no fusion in the sun. That's well understood.
When you have an established scientific emergent truth, it is true.
What is everything made of? You know, oops, there's about 95% stuff we don't know.
It doesn't take light years. There are no light years because there's no light. So that means that the light you see from the distant stars isn't 4 million years old. It could be only minutes old. It could be instantaneous. All the theories collapse when you can't see the stars in outer space.
Recognize what science is and allow it to be what it can and should be.
Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. That's what happened with the globe theory. Everybody knew the world was flat until one day some guy came along and said, "Oh no, it's a ball. We're spinning through space. We're circling the sun." A lie is a lie, even if everybody believes it.
In 2005, they had turned their telescopes to the universe, and they wanted to take a sort of a grand survey of all the galaxies. It was called the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, 2005. As far out as we could see in the universe, the galaxies were aligned in concentric spheres around, guess what? Earth, or our galaxy. Let's just put it that way.
To perform a simple calculation, like solving a maze, a classical computer would test each possible route one at a time to find the correct one. Just as classical computers have bits, quantum computers have qubits. Qubits, however, make use of two key principles of quantum physics: superposition and entanglement. Superposition means that each qubit can represent a 0, a 1, or both at the same time. And entanglement happens when two qubits in a superposition are correlated with one another, meaning the state of one, whether it's a 0, a 1, or both, depends on the state of another. Using these two principles, qubits can act as a much more sophisticated version of switches, helping quantum computers solve difficult problems that are virtually impossible using classical computers.
This is the most most amazing part about our Earth. The ancients all knew this. Now, if we take a look at Stonehenge, we will see that this is essentially a flattened armillary sphere. If we take a look at the armillary sphere, we understand the rings. It's just interesting that it's been changed to make it look like the outside's a globe, when the truth is it's actually inverted. Upon further study of Stonehenge, that is what we are seeing. And not only is it just Stonehenge, it is other burial mounds, other sites, that is the flattened armillary sphere. We also have seen this shown in the movie Wrath of the Titans, when they're showing the underworld. And what do we see in the middle? You guessed it, the pyramid. That is the depiction of Mount Meru. Look on the underneath of it. We see a pyramid underneath, too, that descends into the underworld. So there you have your as above, so below. As we've seen from the photograph of the center of the Earth showing the open hole where the vortex is, that was done in 1968. Lord of the Rings concerning the Ring of Power. This ring is the center magnetic ring in the center of the Earth, as this guy showed in the Taurus fields. And in the following clip, I'm going to show you what else this ring is and what it does, and how science and the occult are remodeling and messing with powers that they shouldn't be messing with. And this is why Revelations is worded the way it is, and this is why when the pit is opened, it is going to be very bad. As essentially, this is what is going to meld the spiritual realm with our physical realm. It will be a blending of the two. And we can see the layers of the symbolism with everything, with the pineal gland to our Earth, to the different realms, our realm and the unseen realm. He wants to be able to be here himself in a physical type of form in order to rule himself, as do the fallen angels. All they're waiting for is for man to finish completion of the machine that's needed to open the portal into this other dimension. The gateway needs to be open for their reality to blend in with ours.
Charles Taze Russell, who invented the Jehovah's Witness movement in America, predicted that the beginning of the end of the world would commence on October 2nd, 1914. On this very day, rocket scientist John Parsons, better known in occult circles as Jack Parsons, was born. A brilliant rocket engineer, Parsons soon entered into correspondence with SS Nazi officer Werner von Braun, and by the age of 13 had begun summoning evil spirits and demons using magical rituals which Parsons had learnt from British occultist Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley styled himself as the Beast, and Jack Parsons referred to Aleister Crowley as his father.
From the structures in space to the structures of matter revealed in the collisions at the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, all sources of data were considered. I carefully studied the amazing research underway at the Large Hadron Collider, and I found a wealth of evidence for this new theory in the collisions there. This evidence will be discussed at length in Primer Fields Part 4. In reviewing a video from CERN, I noticed something quite bizarre, and it wasn't in the data from the collisions. It was in the shape of CERN's most well-recognized building, the Globe of Science and Innovation in Geneva, Switzerland. Not only was it a bowl shape, but the design of the building also had a hole in the top of the dome, exactly as my theory would call for. So I made a magnetic scale model of the CERN dome, placed a set of them in my vacuum chamber, and fired it up. Not only did these CERN bowls form a spherical shape at the center of the reaction, but they also formed a disk of plasma around the nucleus, as well as ejection jets along the axis. After running the experiments for a few days with the CERN bowls, they were removed from the vacuum chamber and photographed, revealing the patterns you see here. These amazing patterns will also be discussed further in Part 4 of this series of videos. Then once it was realized that the key pattern required for this theory was found in the dome at CERN, it was also discovered that CERN was not the only place with the required pattern. The pattern has been there for centuries at the Pantheon in Rome, which has been referred to as the Vault of the Heavens. Then the required shape was also found at St. Peter's Basilica. Then one of my favorites was found at St. Paul's Cathedral in Medina, Malta. Notice the angels circling the hole at the top of the dome, and compare that to the glowing ring that is found inside the bowl-shaped magnetic field emitters in the vacuum chamber. Why are these angels on fire exactly where they should be? Much more on this dome and the others later in this series of videos. So it seems that people often want a sign from God that we are not alone. Sometimes God does give us a sign if we just pay attention. Sometimes He even puts that sign up over the Capitol of the United States of America. Then we will take a look at Newgrange in Ireland. This structure predates Stonehenge by over 200 years, and yet it too contains unbelievable details related to this new theory of the structure of all matter.
Mike, what I keep imagining is if I'm some pony traveler from another planet, what I think about the Earth from this altitude, whether I think it'd be inhabited or not. Well, I'm just kind of curious whether I would land on the blue or the brown part of the Earth.
Hey, thanks for joining me. Hope you're doing well. There is a firmament or dome encasing our flat plane. The firmament is described in the Bible's creation narrative. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." In Egyptian mythology, Nut is the goddess of the sky. She is seen star-covered, arching over the earth, representing its dome. In Greek mythology, Uranus was the primeval god of the sky. The Greeks imagined the sky as a solid dome of brass, whose edges descended to rest upon the outermost limits of the flat earth. Uranus was the literal sky, and Gaia the earth. In the Roman era, he was often depicted as Aeon, god of eternal time, in the form of a man holding the zodiac wheel, standing above Gaia. The Hebrews believed the sky was a solid dome. They called this solid vault of heaven the Rakhia, with the sun, moon, and stars beneath. In Indian mythology, the dome is called Brahmanda. This is the structure of the world according to Finnish mythology, showing a dome with the stars projected onto it. In the Aboriginal conception of the world, the earth was circular and flat, covered by the dome of the sky, which stretched out to the horizon. And there have been many ancient artifacts found which the mainstream has called stone handbags. But as you can see, there's no area to even carry anything. These were not handbags, they're artistic depictions of the dome here on flat Earth. So many ancient peoples knew about this dome and wove it into their worldview. The elite would have us believe that these are just made-up cosmologies, invented by peoples who were too scientifically ignorant to understand reality. But there is no coincidence that the same description of a flat Earth and dome is so common. These cultures around the world had special knowledge about the nature of this place we are living in. The dome is connected to catastrophes that have been recorded throughout the ages. What modern society calls myths and legends are in fact ancient history, and woven into various myths are descriptions of devastating celestial events. In ancient times, something very awful happened, the Great Flood, sometimes called the Deluge. It was so devastating and frightening that it remained in all of humanity's ancient written and oral traditions. It's possible that these stories over time have been transformed from true descriptions into mythology, where the celestial bodies are given names and human-like characteristics, and in this way, everything was hidden in plain sight. Almost every culture around the world has a great flood in the pages of their mythology, including the Incas, Mayans, Polynesians, Egyptians, Hopis, Aztecs, Germans, Greeks, Aboriginals, Indians, Vikings, Chinese, Sumerians, all around the world. Is this why the ancients were obsessed with tracking the movement of the stars? Were they trying to predict when another one of these catastrophes would happen? The foreign celestial body that caused destruction has been known as Typhon in the Roman Empire, Frightener in the Celtic nations, Shiva in India, and Angra Mainyu in the Persian Empire. Here we see the Milky Way's Great Rift. The definition of rift is a crack, split, or break in something. The Great Rift we see when we look at the sky is not a series of dust clouds like the liars at NASA would have us believe, but a literal crack in the dome.